This is a new Max for Live instrument that I made called Legato Gelato. If you're familiar with my MIDI sample and hold devices, this is similar in the sense that you use a separate MIDI track to send pitch information through. But the difference between the MIDI sample and hold objects and Legato Gelato is that the MIDI sample and hold objects will take a trigger or a MIDI note input. Let's say I played right here, and it'll reference this clip to get the pitch. And so in this case it's a F# 3, and it's going to hold that pitch until it gets a new MIDI note from the track that the receiving object is on. So if I didn't play this track again until here, we would skip this note entirely. This is helpful if you're wanting to sequence your pitch separately from your rhythmic source, but you want it to sound clean and not have any glitches in the pitch. The difference with Legato Gelato is that it will still reference this pitch information, but reference it the whole time the note is on. So if the note spans this time, it will play all three of these pitches really cleanly. I have this MIDI track sending to Legato Gelato over here, and my MIDI source to play the actual Legato Gelato instrument is just sensory percussion over here. So if I play this clip, you can hear that it's referencing all the pitches that it receives continuously. And the same way a monophonic synth in legato mode would smoothly transition between the pitches. The main intent for this is to be able to play faster ornaments. So for instance, if I was just to use the OP1 for the pitch, I could manually play ornaments and trills just with a simple trigger from the drums. Or I could use a sequence to play something really fast. Quick overview of the parameters. These three knobs determine the length of the note and the attack and the decay. So I can make it shorter, I can make it short attack, or I could have long attack and decay. Basic controls, I wanted it to be fairly straightforward. So the synth engine behind Legato Gelato is just three waveforms. Two of them are saw waves, so all the sounds are fairly harsh. But I'm using the smoothing object, which sort of acts as a filter which rounds out the sharp edges of the waveforms. Instead of creating a lot of different parameters to work with, I opted to have basically only two timbral parameters, smoothing and boldness, but have several ways to control the parameter. Obviously we have this knob, which determines the starting point for our smoothing, but this knob, keyboard smoothing, determines how moving up and down the keyboard, quote unquote, would influence the smoothing parameter. So if I put this in the positive direction, it's going to increase the smoothing amount as the pitch goes higher, which in this case would make it more mellow. And we could do the opposite, where our lower pitches are going to be more mellow, and they get harsher as we go up the keyboard. This knob allows CC3 to control the smoothing as well, and I put this parameter in here with sensory percussion in mind to make it really straightforward to use controllers to control the timbre. So in sensory percussion, I already have CC3 set up, just using velocity to modulate CC3, and all I have to do is just turn up this knob either in the positive direction or the negative direction to have it influence smoothing. So if I zero this out and maybe start with a lot of smoothing, when I play soft, the timbre is soft, and as I play harder, the sound gets brighter. So all three of these values summed together So if you use them all in conjunction, you have a lot of motion to this smoothing parameter. Boldness is sort of a macro control. Think of it as FM depth and a unison detune all at once. That basically just makes it sound fatter and more aggressive. I really like how messy the lower frequencies get with this. And it's the same convention. Keyboard boldness will allow, as you go up and down the keyboard, to control the boldness amount. So in this case, the timbre would get more bold as you go higher, or in this case, it would get less bold as you go higher. Gnarly. And then here I have CC2 hardwired to control boldness as well, and I have that set up in sensory percussion with the same controller, if I'm not mistaken, using velocity to send out on CC2. So if I incorporate that into the mix, now I can use CC2 to control boldness as well. The final twist to Legato Gelato is this harmonic selector, which happens before the oscillators. And basically what this is doing is taking the frequency that the oscillators are going to play at and multiplying it by something so that it moves up and down the harmonic series, sort of. So 2 would be twice the frequency. Let me just make this a more chill timbre real quick. 1 is the original pitch, 2 would be twice the frequency, so it's an octave higher. 3 would be a fifth, and then 4 would be an octave, another octave higher. And then going the other direction, 0.5 octave lower. This really comes to life when you enable CC1 to control the harmonic selector. So in this case, I have speed controller modulating CC1. So now when I play a buzz, it's going to sweep that harmonic selector for us. Of course, you could also use some like a CVLFO on this, which would be really cool as well. I just wanted to put these CCs in there hardwired to make it as easy as possible to get controllers in to the action.